I guess we're just diving right in.
Yeah.
We're here with Bastille. And so first of all, you've had a couple of years of touring and going on stage. What does that feel like now? Do you still get stage fright?
I think it's got a bit better recently, to be honest. Yeah. I used to be fucking terrified every time before going out on stage. And I think Carl used to get really nervous as well, but I think, I don't know, I think we maybe settled into it a little bit, feel a bit more chilled out, maybe even excited before some gigs. Yeah, how about you? Do you ever get nervous?
During the show or interviews?
I guess interviews.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I do.
Really?
Because it's a different situation. If you're in the studio, you have your own little bubble.
Yeah,
So
totally.
then with people, it's completely different.
Yeah, of course. And they might not be nice.
Well, so far I've been offered a drink, water, but...
What is that? Oh, wine.
No.
No,
It's okay.
You
Still
sure?
have to work, yeah.
It is the middle of the day.
Tonight.
It would be, yeah.
What is your favorite song to perform?
Mine is, at the moment, Revolutions, which is a very new song. And it's one of the rare occasions where I love the record and I love playing it. Because there are some songs, for instance, Those Nights, that's an amazing song and I love listening to it, but I hate my part. It's really boring. Whereas Revolutions is really fun and it's a wicked song.
I'm really enjoying playing Hope for the Future, which is also new. And it's pretty much the opposite end of the spectrum. If Revolution is a kind of like slightly weird, futuristic, I don't know, dance moment almost, like sort of future funk thing. Hope for the Future is sad and acoustic and introverted, and we wrote it for a film called From Devil's Breath, and it's a very different world for us. But I love playing it.
Okay, cool. Talking about futuristic, Give Me the Future. It just sounds like you created your own little sci-fi world. Where did that inspiration come from?
I think it came from the idea of escapism and the different forms of escapism that everyone uses to get out of their minds and get out of their lives. Some people read a book, some people play video games for hours and hours and hours, some people just spend loads of their time online or on their phone or playing sport or playing music or whatever. And I think we became really interested by the different ways people escape and the different places people escape to, and how to a certain extent it can be amazing and really healthy, and then obviously there's a tipping point at which it becomes like avoidant and maybe not okay. But loads of that was in and around technology, and I guess we started looking at how quickly the world is changing and how quickly technology is evolving, and thinking about the positive and negative effects that can have on like humanity and our minds, and how often things are changing so quickly it kind of feels like we're living in a science fiction, because so much of the technology that is available all the time is so bizarre, and it's the kind of stuff that used to be in films when we were growing up. So I don't know, that became like an interesting way to look at the world. And then obviously we all lived through pandemic and lockdowns, and technology became so much more vital for us to like communicate and work and like do so many things that we used to do in person. So it was like a living through another kind of form of apocalyptic science fiction, but it was reality, which was weird.
But then I wonder if, because this was made during the pandemic as well, beforehand maybe there was a bit more of an appetite for like metaversey stuff and like, oh, that'd be quite fun. But then when everyone is stuck at home, like I don't want to see a Zoom screen ever again. So yeah, maybe it's kind of, that was a bit of a reality check in terms of, real life's better sometimes as well.
This is actually the first interview in person that I'm doing. It's all been Zoom interviews, so this is actually a great change.
Oh, yeah. Amazing.
Yeah, but listening to your songs, I felt like you kind of hold up a mirror and you observe all of that. But do you actually draw a conclusion on whether you think that the way technology shapes us is a good impact or a bad impact?
I think we wanted to go about, because it would be hypocritical of us to say, like, you use your phone too much, because we use our phones all the time. We are as much embedded in the use of like all this technology as like anyone and everyone else. So I think with our music, the whole time we've never wanted to come at it from a judgmental perspective, because no one wants to hear four idiots in a band preaching about anything. So we always, and that's just not how we are like in real life either. So I think the perspective of the album is one of like, this is the world that we're in. It's strange, it's fucked up, it's confusing, it's exciting, it can be great, it can be awful. Like, it's trying to not be judgmental. I think on the narrative of the album, it finishes with a song called Future Holds that's basically, I don't know, in my head, I thought it would be funny to spend the whole album worrying about different versions of the future and then finish on a song that's like, stop worrying about the future, you fucking idiot. You could be dead tomorrow, which, like, obviously isn't funny, but to me, it seemed like it could be. And so, yeah, I guess that, if anything, that's the conclusion. It's to not to like be present, man, but to I think, like with everything in the world, when it seems fucked up and confusing, is like, obviously it's good to engage with it to a point, but if you go down that rabbit hole and spend all of your time reading the news and worrying about that, it just makes, there's only so much you can do. It's good to be kind of like informed and helpful and useful if you can, but also like, I guess you've got to live your life as well. So it's like, I guess it's about trying to find that balance. So yeah. And the album finishes with our friend Bim, who's on tour with us, doing a sort of mad future gospel arrangement of this tune. Bim and Senab as well. And yeah, so it's, yeah. Okay. That's not really an answer. That's just a lot of words. Sorry.
Okay. Why did you decide to use more synthesizer and sound effects on this album? Or at least it feels that way.
We, with every album, we try and make it really different from the last. And then everyone's like, it just sounds like the last one. But in our minds, it is so different. But yeah, I guess, like, the influence is sort of going for that sort of sci-fi, sort of 70s, 80s thing. There's a lot of those sounds on, like, so it kind of reflects that. But I think it's kind of bandy as well. There's a lot of, because I got to play, it's really boring. I got to play fretless bass, which would mean nothing to anyone who's not a bass player. But there's like a lot of, it's kind of trying to find that balance. But I think, I don't know, maybe we just wanted to give Kyle
a bit more to do.
Well, yeah, because I think it's that kind of like retro futuristic thing, like kind of like going through the 70s and 80s, where they were really tapping into kind of what at that time was quite futuristic and quite synthy, and so we used a lot of those synths and those sounds like the Junos and the Mellotrons and stuff like that, and kind of like Jupiter stuff that basically is both futuristic and retro for us. So that was a fun day of synths, just going in and getting all kind of the synths out and having a big synth day. And particularly like the Shut Off the Lights, which is like the song that I like, is kind of like maybe, I think it's my favourite of the album. And it's got like, it's got that very classic Juno sound, and then it's got the kind of like a Lionel Richie vibe in it that I love, and I think
it's accidental Lionel Richie.
Yeah. Oh yeah, like because that super wasn't an
it's like
influence
literally all I can hear.
Yeah. It wasn't like an active reference, but I'm glad that was picked up on the kind of on the notes, because that was it. It was both retro and futuristic, which I loved.
And we also messed around with vocal effects quite a lot. So there's a plugin called Harmony Engine, which Bon Iver uses a lot, and it kind of splits your voice. It's kind of like a vocoder, but it feels quite human at the same time. So we experimented with that a lot, and also with a thing called the electro spit, which is kind of like a, what would you call it?
There's an instrument called a talkbox, which you can use on like different like synths and guitars and stuff. Which basically it can. So basically, it's a huge amp that you funnel the sound in from like a synth or a guitar, and then the sound goes into a tube, and the tube goes into your mouth, and so like, as I speak now, my lips are mouthing the words, and my voice box is making the sound. But instead of my voice box making the sound, the synth is making the sound, and then the tube pumps that sound into my mouth, which I then mouth. But yeah, people used to die because it, like, if you're dribbling down the tube during a gig, and then the water goes down into the huge amp that's connected to the mains. So yeah, that had to stop.
No.
But I did.
It's dangerous, man.
So we did record some of that, but then, as Dan said,
use this electro spit.
This thing called an electro spit, which is basically they've kind of reinvented the talkbox, and they pump the sound into your throat,
made it less fatal, and
it's way less fatal, and it runs off a battery, which is nice. So now they kind of pump the sound into your throat, and then you mouth the words. It sounds a lot more disgusting than it is.
It's a distorted light beam. It's this sort of almost like robot-y voice you can hear. I think, but the whole point of fucking with the vocals was, if the album's about the interaction between humanity and technology, then I don't know, it's a clunky, obvious, excuse me, example, but to take the human voice, which is like the most human thing maybe, and then to sort of mess around with it with computers and different effects and stuff, seemed kind of fitting for the album as well.
One last question. So basically, we had a 48-hour show where we were live on air for 48 hours.
How was that?
I was very sleepy afterwards.
Yeah, how did you stay awake?
By listening to many, many songs, and one of them that we listened to repeatedly, very often, and the whole, like, Luxembourg had to listen to it all the time with us, was Back to the Future.
Oh, amazing.
And because there's this, I'm really sorry to do this, but there's this ahoo sound.
Ahoo.
And we used to do that, so that kept us awake. And then everybody
Amazing.
joined in, like people phoned us and they were like, oh, we're going to do it with you. So they phoned in, they were like, ahoo. So
That's so
it might
cool.
get loud tonight at that part. And I want to hear your best ahoo.
Ahoo.
Can you do it just all together?
1, 2, 3, 4.
Ahoo.
That sounds so much better than when I do it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Eldo.